When you think about San Francisco, it's a city that feels like it's always changing, always becoming something new. Today, we're going to dig into how this incredible place has been shaped and completely reshaped by these massive cycles of boom and bust over and over again.
I mean, really, think about it. How does a tiny little village called Good Herb turn into a global powerhouse of culture and tech? It's one of the wildest journeys in modern history. So let's trace the story.
And it all kicks off right here, with the city's very first absolutely massive and totally chaotic boom, the California Gold Rush. This was the Big Bang moment, the event that literally forged San Francisco's DNA for everything that was to come.
But before all the gold and chaos, it wasn't even called San Francisco. There was a tiny settlement named Yerba Buena. That's Spanish for good herb, named after a type of mint that grew all over the hills. A pretty humble, quiet beginning for a city like this.
And then, things got crazy. Fast. Get this. In 1848, the town had a population of maybe 1,000 people. Just 1 year later, it had exploded to 25,000. That's not just growth. That's a human tidal wave, all flooding in for one reason: to get rich.
The frenzy was so intense that when ships sailed into the harbor, their crews would just abandon them on the spot and run for the gold fields. Hundreds of ships were just left there rotting, creating what people at the time called a forest of masts. And get this, some of those ships were actually sunk on purpose to create more land for the city to build on.
But as you can imagine, that kind of explosive growth has a dark side. All that money and all those people brought complete and utter chaos. The city became a Wild West, and the Barbary Coast District got a reputation as a place full of gambling, crime, the whole shebang. And right there, the pattern was set. Huge boom, huge problems.
So the city survives this wild birth, but its biggest test was still on the horizon. This wasn't about gold this time. This was about pure survival, a catastrophe that would test that spirit of reinvention to its absolute limit. We're talking, of course, about the great 1906 earthquake. And the scale of this thing is just hard to wrap your head around. The quake itself was devastating, but it was the fires that broke out afterwards that did the real damage. They burned for days, wiping out more than 75% of the entire city.
The writer Jack London was there, and he saw it all firsthand. He wrote that San Francisco is gone, and that's really how people felt. It looked like the end of the line. The city they knew was, for all intents and purposes, just gone. And yet, this is where that whole reinvention thing kicks into high gear. The rebuilding was unbelievably fast. In just 9 years, think about that, they went from total ruin to hosting a massive World's Fair. They were basically screaming to the entire planet, "We're back." And that energy just kept going. Even in the middle of the Great Depression, when the whole country was struggling, they were building these monumental, world-changing projects. The Bay Bridge, the iconic Golden Gate Bridge, a massive aqueduct to bring in water. They were literally engineering the modern city into existence. Okay, so the city is physically rebuilt, stronger than ever. But the next great transformation wasn't about concrete and steel. It was about ideas. This is the era when San Francisco becomes, well, San Francisco, the global capital of counterculture. So what lit the fuse for this? Well, after World War II, you had this kind of perfect storm brewing. GIs were coming home with a new perspective, new people were moving in from all over the world, and there was just this feeling across the country that things were changing. San Francisco became a giant magnet for anyone looking for a different way to live.
And this cultural revolution rolled out in waves. First, in the 50s, you had the beat poets like Jack Kerouac hanging out in North Beach. Then the 60s hit, and boom, it's the summer of love in the Haight-Ashbury. And that was followed by the 1970s and the powerful rise of the gay rights movement, centered in the Castro.
And a huge pivotal moment in that story was the election of Harvey Milk. He was one of the very first openly gay elected officials in the United States. His political success and his powerful activism turned San Francisco into a beacon of hope for the LGBTQ community all over the world. So as those cultural revolutions started to settle, another new gold rush was quietly beginning. But this time, the riches weren't buried in the hills. They were being coated in silicon. This was the start of the city's most recent and maybe its most dramatic boom and bust cycle yet.
From the dot-com bubble in the 90s, to the social media explosion in the 2000s, and now the AI revolution, San Francisco became the urban heart of Silicon Valley. Suddenly, it's home to these massive companies, Salesforce, Uber, Airbnb, OpenAI, that didn't just change technology, they completely remade the city.
And just like the first gold rush, this new boom turned the city inside out. It brought unbelievable wealth and opportunity for sure, but it also dramatically changed the social fabric, turning once working-class neighborhoods into some of the most expensive places to live in the entire world. Which brings us right up to today, and to the core conflict of modern San Francisco. Because the price of this latest massive boom has created a city of stark, unavoidable contradictions. And the numbers just lay it bare. On the one hand, you have staggering wealth, the highest income per person of any large city in America. But on the other hand, you have profound challenges, including one of the highest rates of homelessness in the nation. It truly is a tale of two cities, crammed into just 49 square miles.
And what's driving this wedge? A huge part of it is the absolutely insane cost of living. The median price for a home is about $1.3 million. I mean, it's astronomical compared to the rest of the country. That's a direct consequence of the tech boom, and it's completely changed who can afford to call San Francisco home.
So you see the pattern, right? Gold rush, rising from the ashes, counterculture, tech boom. It's a relentless cycle of radical transformation. It's like reinvention is just baked into the city's identity. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. After all this, what comes next for the city that's always living on the edge of the future?